Hello and welcome back to the channel on our continuing voyage to become better blues players. My name's Mark, and in this lesson we're going to look at 10 licks that teach us to move along the neck instead of across the fretboard as we would usually do. So the way the lesson's going to work, you're going to see me play an example solo put together over a 12-bar blues backing track with all 10 licks built as a solo, and then we'll come back on the other side. We'll talk about it, we'll talk about where the idea for this lesson came from, we'll talk about the scales used, and I will show you all the licks one by one. So, here's the solo. So that was the example there, and what we'll do now is we'll pull all the licks apart and show you them one by one. But before I do, a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, please like, comment and subscribe. It helps me beat the YouTube algorithm and get my videos out there. Secondly, there is tab available for this. It's absolutely free. If you'd like a copy of the tab, please send me an email, and next time I'm online I'll reply and attach the tab to it. Please ask for playing along the neck in D. That way I know which lesson you're interested in. Also, the backing track that you heard me play over, that's available as a separate track on YouTube as well, and details for my email address and for the backing track are in the description below. Big thanks to my Patreon supporters and to those who've left me a tip in my PayPal tip jar, which helps pay for the lessons and keeps the channel running. Okay, so after all of that, let's get on with the lesson. I'll start with the licks and then we'll talk about the scales and things. But the idea for this lesson came when a couple of weeks ago I went to a masterclass with Chris Buck. If you're not familiar with Chris Buck, he's an amazing guitar player from Wales. And at the Birmingham Guitar Show he was given a masterclass and he taught a number of different things. One of the interesting things he taught about was that in his particular style of playing, he tends to play along a single string, moving up and down the neck, just using a single string, rather than playing kind of stuck in boxes. So this is a kind of a great exercise for breaking you out of boxes and getting you moving along the neck. Now, I can't play anything like him. He's got a very unusual phrasing, note choice, sense of melody and harmony and those kind of things. So this is definitely not Mark trying to sound like Chris Buck. It's simply, here was an idea taught in a masterclass that I thought was really good. I've come along and kind of taken that idea and say, okay, well, how does that work in a 12-bar blues context? When Chris Buck was teaching what he does and how and his approach and giving examples, one thing that was quite obvious was that he'd pick one string, and in the example he picked, he was mainly moving up and down the B string. That doesn't mean to say that he wasn't playing the other strings, but any notes he was picking out on the other strings were kind of just passing notes on, kind of notes to support the main notes, which is main melody notes, which were landing on that B string. And so he was mainly focusing on the G, B and top E string, mainly moving up and down this B string, but using the occasional note from the G or the top E to kind of support what he was doing as well, and play like little passing notes and things. So it's that idea that I've tried to incorporate in the lesson. So that's what you'd have seen in the solo. So with all of that out of the way, let's get on with these actual licks. So lick one goes like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And I'll do it nice and slow. Important thing, just like all my licks or all my solos, the first lick starts usually on the preceding bar. So you'll hear on the backing track there's a hi-hat counting 1, 2, 3, 4. This lick starts on the 4 and it plays a triplet, 4 and a, before landing this note here on the 1 of the next bar. If you look at the tab, I'm sure that'll kind of become clear what I'm talking about. But basically, if we, in terms of time and thinking, 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a. Okay, so that's the lick. One more time, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you can see the tab on screen for the actual notes there. Okay, so that was lick 1. Lick 2, that was over the D7 chord. I should say the whole thing is a 12-bar blues in D. So that is the preceding bar and then into the first bar, which is D. Lick 2 now begins on bar 2, which is now over a G7 chord, and it goes like this. Okay, and again, nice and slow. Okay, and you'll notice moving up and down that D string there. B string even, moving up and down the B string. Okay, one more time, nice and really slow. And I guess the only tricky thing with this is just making sure bending the first note with our ring finger and then catching that additional note on the top E string with our little finger. So that just those first 2 notes. Okay, so you're getting that thing. So here it is again, up to speed. So lick 2 there played over the G7 chord back into the D7 chord. Lick 3 is also over the D chord, and that goes like this. Okay, so it starts with these 2 little lead-in notes, and then it essentially plays that little phrase from lick 2 again. Okay, so I'll play the whole of lick 3 nice and slow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so then we're into lick 4. Now lick 4 comes in over the G7 chord, and it starts with a slide into a G note on the B string. So lick 4 is going to go like this. Okay, and nice and slow. Okay, and you can see what we're doing, just sliding up that B string there. Okay, so that was over the G7 chord. Lick 5 comes in right at the end of the G7 chord before we move back to the D7 chord, and that goes like this. Nice and slow. And one more time up to speed. Okay, and now where are we? We're into lick 6, and lick 6 is going to go like this. Okay, we're now into a little section where there's going to be a few slides going on here and there as well. So what I'm doing is I've got my ring finger on 15, my index finger on 13, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off from 15 to 13 and then immediately slide down to 10. So nice and slow as one movement. Okay. So after that little slide, I'm then just going to play this little dirty bend here before landing again on this 10 on the B string. So nice and slow the whole lick. And the important thing here is to get that pull off and slide as one kind of continuous movement. Okay, so again, one more time, nice and slow. And up to speed. Okay, so what was that? That was lick 6, lick 7, then goes like this. And nice and slow. You notice we're in box position 1 of the D minor pentatonic there now. Okay, so that was, what was that? That was lick 7. Lick 8 then goes like this. Okay, and again, just seen sliding up on that that D string. B string even, I keep calling it D string, I'm not sure why. Okay, then we get lick 9. Lick 9 is probably the hardest one out of all of this, and it takes that idea that we looked at before where we've got the pull off to the slide, and it repeats, it kind of continues that all the way from the top of box position 2 right down to box position 4. So you get this. Okay, that was reasonably slow. I think up to speed it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what we're doing is each pull-off slide is a separate triplet. So the first one, 15 to 13 to 10. Then what we're doing is 13, 10 to 8. Then what we're doing is 10, 8 to 6. So there's 3 of them. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, or 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a. Okay, so that's the first part, and then what we do is we are playing then 6 to 8 and then sliding back to 6 and then sliding up to 10. So the last part goes like this. Okay, and I'm just hitting that 10 on the beat a couple of times. But you can look at the tab to see exactly how I'm playing. Okay, so that was lick 9. I'll do the whole thing up to speed again. So that was lick 9. Lick 10 is then going to go like this. Okay, very simple. We're going to take 6, bend it up a little bit, and then come off to 3, and then hit 3 again. So that was all the licks, and some of them are a little bit more tricky than others, but I'm sure you'll get them. It's kind of, the idea of this is that it's kind of good practice of moving us up and down the neck and sliding between the various box positions. So the way I was thinking about this is I was thinking of the minor pentatonic box positions in the key of D, but mainly focusing on the B string. So the first lick starts focusing on this root note here, 3rd fret B string, and I'm thinking box position 3. Okay, so I'm thinking of those notes while I'm targeting there, then moving up into box position 4. Okay, so I was thinking those, but again, just focusing more on that B string than anything. Then from there, we're into box position 5. So we've gone box position 3, into 4, into 5, and then we're back into 1. Okay, and then into box position 2. So thinking of that, but always thinking of playing this melody that's kind of mainly focusing on the B string, but as I'm moving up and down that B string, seeing those box positions that are kind of around those notes to kind of give me a sense of where I am and what notes I have to choose from. Okay, so that was the that was the lesson. Hope you enjoyed it. It's a very different way of thinking about moving along the neck. I must admit, when I put this lesson together, the way I always do my lessons, I put a backing track on, I improvise a few ideas, and then I take it, make a take, just improvising. This one, I found it hard to improvise thinking just this way because I'm so used to thinking across the neck rather than along the neck. but it took me a little bit to get into it, but I got there. So I think it's really good practice, and it helps us break out those box positions and move from one box position to the next. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this lesson. If you'd like me to do other things, I could do a similar one in a different key, or we could go on to look at something completely different next time. Anyway, as always, thanks to the Patreon supporters. Thanks to those who leave me a tip in the PayPal tip jar. If you want a copy of the tab, see the description below, and take care, and I'll see you next time.